There's no God, morality, or free will. Why? Well, God doesn't exist, and there's only nature. And nature isn't nice. Nature is painful and sometimes pleasurable. And so when we feel pains and pleasures, we have a tendency naturally to judge the world. Why do we judge the world, for example? I'll get back to what I just said right now. The reason we judge the world is because if you're as an organism, as a creature, as a being, if just in the same case as an animal, we are running for prey and we're running from predators. In order to do that, we have to be able to judge where we're running. So naturally, we are, based on our pleasure-pain mechanism, directed to judge the world around us. Because if we don't judge the world around us, we're not gonna see the predator coming, and we're gonna get killed, and we're not gonna get our prey, and we're not gonna eat, and we're gonna die. So we're gonna get killed. So we judge the world because it's natural. And then later on, as we became better judges of the world around us, we took the idea of God and we created good and bad situations through pain and pleasure, good and bad people, good and bad behavior, good and bad thinking, intentions, motives, everything that's involved in creating the concept of free will also. So the idea of God doesn't exist because you don't need someone to create nature. Nature is just what it is. It's not nice sometimes and it's nice sometimes. And that's it. You just have to live with it. If you can't deal with that, that's a weakness, a sickness. It's not like you're doing yourself a favor. It doesn't exist. If you're looking for free ride in heaven, if life sucks and you believe in heaven, I mean, that's just looking for compensation. But why does anybody need compensation? It is what it is, and you die. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, so many people accept that because it's true, and all other creatures in the universe accept it, except maybe people like those who don't. And so we know there's no God. Nature just goes on forever and ever and ever, and it just recycle, and it recreates you into this kind of thing that you think you are. You think you're so nothing. There's just memories, and you're just bouncing around in the world you live in, and you're just taking in information and recording it, and then regurgitating it when it's necessary. And if you don't have the right memories, you make mistakes, and then you learn from your mistakes, and then you get the memories. So God doesn't exist. It's just a concept we invented because man evolved from apes, and we didn't know how nature worked, and then step by step through science we figured it out. And so there's only so the ignorant part of mankind is being taken away by giving him a good memory, a good program. His mind is being educated. I mean, if you don't know physics or chemistry without studying it first. So it's not like if your brain didn't absorb all this information and record it, it doesn't have the brain to talk about it. So you need information input to get information output. No information goes in, no information can come out. Anyway, so the concept of God is out of ignorance, and the main reason is out of fear. It was more understandable that our ancient ancestors, who lived in very harsh conditions of life, that they would have naturally developed ideas of gods and devils, and especially since they were more ignorant. But today, people who do that means you haven't really evolved. You're still 50,000 years behind in thinking. That should be quite embarrassing. So the fear factor, I mean, how do you overcome the fear? By accepting the truth. By accepting the truth, every single second of your life will make you stronger. To not say, I need this or I need that. It is what it is, And then the more you accept it, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, the less you need to believe in things that are not logical. I mean, things that you need to, like a crutch. You have to, you got to either live or you die, right? And most of living isn't physical, it's mental, especially in our societies that we live in. So the concept of God is just something we have to get out of our head so that we can move on and think about things that are more important. Why do we need to believe in God when we can believe in humanism? Or what I think is even a higher value is naturism. I mean, we all belong to nature, and we're not going to just come back as humans. We're going to come back as everything else nature can create. That's the eternal reoccurrence. But it doesn't just do it once. It does it an infinite number of times because nature goes on infinitely. So the probability of returning is infinite. Anyways, so this is the reality is nature, and God is just a concept. And then from that, we created good and evil. See, people who can't accept nature are going to create good and evil, good and bad people. This guy, is that way, and this guy should be that way. And that comes directly from pain and pleasure. The minute the body feels pain, fear, terror, anxiety, anything that they don't like, they want to get rid of that feeling. And so they're going to blame the person they see who caused it. And they don't know that there's no free will, that person is a product of his environment. He didn't become what he did because he chose to. It's because the environment, you could be living in a war zone. That person's going to have to react accordingly. And if he was living in the lap of luxury, he's going to react accordingly. So over time, he's going to become what he's being conditioned to become. And this is all predetermined. We have to understand that because nature is like, just a domino effect, and things evolve. I mean, anybody who's ever studied Charles Darwin's theories, I mean, not theories, just it'd be ideas, that we've been understanding about nature. And so you realize that we're evolving. And when you evolve, it's not like you choose every second of your evolution. It's evolving accordingly, according to what you were and what is happening in the external world. So there's no such thing as free will. It's the law of causality, the laws of nature that's directing us in the direction we're going. So if I was brought up in Nazi Germany or some KKK back 200 years ago, and they taught me this is how life is and this is how life will be, because I wouldn't know any better. What other culture do I have to compare it with? I haven't traveled and seen that other cultures are different. So people believe in this concept of free will because they see things at face value. They don't see that person, a criminal, became a criminal because that's what he was bound to become. Or in the environments he was raised up in, and then we condemn him because not we, but society condemns him because they don't see that they're just reacting to a stimulus that they don't like, and then you're blaming nature. I mean, it's fine, okay, you don't like them. There's nothing wrong with that. If there's like 20 guys sitting in a group, and then another person comes in and nobody likes him, they don't have to let him sit down. They can say, no, you go find your own crowd of people. We don't want to associate with you. So a society can tell somebody that, hey, if you're going to break the laws that we 20 people abide by, then you're going to have to be punished. In the old days, you just kick you out of society. Now we don't do that. What we do is we build prisons. And by building prisons, because it seems like a more humanitarian way, because you throw them in the wild, they're not going to last very long. I mean, some will. I guess maybe they might not. Maybe they don't even know they could. They probably would, but we don't do that anymore because the whole world has been taken over by mankind. So there's really, everything is already within the system. So that person is going to, so people who believe in free will, so that the concept of free will doesn't exist. The concept of God doesn't exist. And morality, what is right and wrong? Well, according to who? According to God doesn't exist, so it can't be according to him. So according to who? Humans. So humans make up a morality. But this morality is only human morality. It doesn't exist in the rest of, outside of humanity. Because nature doesn't care what you do. And that's why we created concepts of God, because somebody has to give a shit about what we do, so we can blame the person, hold him accountable for his actions, punish him, and in the end, keep society peaceful and productive. That's what people want. They don't like, who wants to live in a state of terror all the time? But if you don't live in a state of terror once in a while, so just wake yourself up. It's like skydiving, or people who do like very dangerous things, risk their lives. They don't do it because they're suicidal. They do it because something in them tells them, you know what, I got to get a little bit tougher here. I got to strengthen my will, so that every time something bad happens to me, I don't cry like a little girl and start praying for somebody to take care of me. No, sometimes you say, you know what, I deserve it, and you move on. Take the punches as you go on, and that's it. And so all people have to understand is that if you want to get along, if you want to make it in the world, just try not to be too weak, and try not to be out of control, and try to stay out of the bubble of society, because that is it possesses you. Try to be humble and simple, the simple life, because you're just an animal. You're gonna die off one day, and then it's not like you could have had a great life, but after you die, you won't remember, because your memories die with you. So it's just you know what? Okay, look at it this way. If you toughen yourself up every day by living in a tough environment, you'll always be tough. Which may not necessarily be always good, because then you never feel the weakness, which also educates you. Pain and pleasure educates. That one thing we have to understand is that pain and pleasure educates. So the more pleasure you have in life, you're going to be educated. And then obviously the body can only endure so much pleasure until it suffers from too much pain, because they come hand in hand. The more pleasure, the more you enjoy in life, the more you'll suffer in life. The less you enjoy in life, the less you'll suffer in life. But you won't learn anything. The more you enjoy in life, go out of control if you have to, and then suffer like tremendously, say in prison for like your life, and then you get out and you'll be a genius, because you've felt both sides, and that's what's necessary. And that's why you see a lot of great people come out of prison. I mean, if you look at the history, I can name you a list of people. Like, even if you just look at recently, if you think about who Nelson Mandela spent like 3 decades in prison. I mean, all the rappers, half of them spend lots of time in prison. Poets, Gandhi spent 3 decades of his life in prison. I'm not saying all these people like higher men or nature conscious men, but they were great men according to society. And there's a whole look at Hollywood. I mean, it's not reality, so you're not really feeling it, but you have to still put yourself in that character to be good or evil, and then kind of feel it. So, and maybe you've already been through, and that's why good actors are good actors. Probably they had already those feelings already developed in them from childhood. So when they get into Hollywood, they're remembering things from their past, which is a form of it's acting, but it's not really acting. It's reacting, reacting from what actually happened in the past. But if you've never experienced anything, take a whole bunch of people living in temples and churches. These people could never be actors. They couldn't be anything great. Why? Because they hate pain. They hate all the bad things in life. They hate everything that nature is unpleasant in life, and they label it right away evil. And they just stay good, and they go to one side too much, too good, which obviously does harm to who? To you. Because you get weaker the more good you become, the more security you need. So you're not harming other people by being good. Well, you are if you drag them into your sick house, mental institution, your asylum, and you say, oh no, this is the righteous path, and you're making them weak, and then because misery loves company, and that is not a good thing. So it's better to be tough as hell, and sometimes go back and forth, in and out, in and out. If somebody who goes in and out of the city is learning, you got to go do the things that you don't want to do. The things that you're afraid of doing most. Do those things and then recover, and just like, whoa, okay, that was cool. So your body can go through these feelings. You don't have to, there are certain things you can do that can ruin the entire rest of your life. And there are things that can, terrorize you, but it's only momentary. Maybe 10 minutes of hang gliding, I don't know. or maybe an hour of mountain cliff climbing, whatever terrorizes you, or maybe walking on the edge of a building and seeing if you fall off or not. And then you don't fall off. Hopefully you don't fall off. But if you do fall off, well, you won't know any better after like 20 seconds. But if you take all these risks and you strengthen yourself, and then it's only momentary. It's like it lasts only or go on a hiking trip for like a week or two with wild animals, and make sure you bring a compass, because you might be more than 2 weeks. So then you can come back out, and then you can say, hey, wow, whew, recovered. That increased feeling of power, happiness, freedom. That is like, wow. That's where kind of the concept of free will also comes from, is that when you get an increased feeling of, like, if you're released out of prison or you're acquitted for a crime, and you're like, wow, OJ must have felt amazing. It's like, whew, that's an increased rush of serotonin, oxytocin, dopamines in your body. And that this rushing, because your brain is still trying to comprehend that, hey, I just got off on a murder. I don't know if he did it or not. It's none of my business. And he's probably like, so, and that feeling is going to last for a while, because his brain is saying, is it for real? Did I get off? It might go for months, maybe years. And then, you go back to normal, and then you do something stupid. And then you go back to jail for something you shouldn't be, I don't know, So it's an increase of pleasure. So when you go, you have to be you have to go through fears and sufferings, so that, you can scare yourself, and then go back to a nice, pleasant life. So you can, because there's too much pleasure chemicals in your body. Now you got to like enjoy yourself. You got to enjoy yourself. And then get to a level where, you're not enjoying too much, because too much always leads to the other way. So, if you're feeling really happy, kind of go back to nature, and because it really makes you even think deeper. But if you go and party because you feel happy, you're just going to take in social nonsense, social rabbling, all that commotion, traffic in your brain. It's not really helping you to think deeper, because, the depths of your thinking process is, your consciousness level of thinking is like a tip of the iceberg. Your memories that you have and all that included, it's just a tip of the iceberg. What you can learn about yourself through extreme pains and pleasures, it requires that you have silence, so you can think about yourself, think what your body's saying. And that a lot of people don't do. They just go back into the crowd, and they just hear everybody else's ideas, and they're just passing it back. It's like they're bouncing together. And I can't stand being in a crowd for too long. And you isolate yourself when you talk to people from one to, because it's just, you don't want to talk to everybody. Most of the people are passing on bad information. If the person doesn't have any information, what's the point talking to that person? He's not giving you anything useful. And then they think we're equal. We're not equal. If one person is passing on information that's going to help him in life, then he's giving already. And if another person is passing on information that's not going to help the other person in life, then he's taking. I mean, that's horrible. Imagine having children and you know nothing. In fact, not only you know nothing, you know all the wrong things. Everything is wrong. 4 plus 4 is 5, always for you. And maybe sometimes 4 plus 4 equals 5 is sometimes a good thing. But in the real world, this is in our world, if you want to make it successful in society, 2 plus 2 has to equal 4. And if a child is being fed all the wrong information, that this is reality and this is how nature works and this is true, and the kids, you're not helping that kid. You're ruining your child. You're destroying his mind. And then you're saying, well, I don't know. I didn't know all that. I just thought, well, it's not my fault. It's coming from that person. Once you ruin a person, you're saying it's coming from that person. The person is to blame. But that's not true. He didn't create himself. He was created by other people. Or a lack of education, or a horrible environment. And then we blame the entity for the computer for being, when it was the programmers who programmed the computer. And you can't blame the computer. So this is why our systems have to be reformed. Anyways, that's enough for today.